Goku Glazers are saying that it's me who glazes DC the most, but I feel like this just proves the point that I was trying to make in my last 9 videos, that some scalers don't damn read anything and will actually still come to my channel saying I said things that I never said. But in this case, it's weirdly the reverse, where I did say it, but they claim I never said it. I don't know, that's some mind-melting denialception going on over there that breaks my brain the more and more I think about it over time. Speaking of time, this guidebook that the real Goku Glazers don't want to show you says that the Kaioshins have an average lifespan of 75,000 years before they die and have to be replaced. So it lends a lot of credibility to there being regular flowing time in the other world, probably why Elder Kai looks so old. Who knows? Time is a weird thing when it comes to DC Comics though, because time gets reset often and then a new history is born. They call these events new canon histories, and during the 2015 to 2022 era, Perpetua was regarded as the mother of creation and all the past crisis events, one only to be bullied right out of existence by Epoch, claiming he didn't know who the hell she was and never heard of her while he was traveling around the DC Continuum. Later, we find out that Vandal Savage had coded his own custom gaming server universe, complete with mod tools active, and DC called that the Metal Cosmology era, from the same 2015 to 2022 era that I just mentioned. Fans of DC and others who want me dead in real life insist that Perpetua was a real thing and that this cosmology revision was the original truth of DC, which is weird because of that whole Epoch episode where he'd been traveling around through time since before Perpetua even existed as a plot-induced rewrite. But I digress. I'm just a Goku hater, and all I do is downplay him. Ignore my DBZ tattoos and my early life being entirely based on me wanting to be as much like Goku as I could with my karate journey and all that other fighting stuff that I embarked on in all the tournaments that I was in. So, it's my opinion that Zeno could one-shot Perpetua, the fraudulent god of DC that was written as a co-authored sponsorship between Vandal Savage and Darkseid, which oddly enough happened during the 2018 to 2020 era in the Young Justice series.
Of his existence, Vandal seized the moment and made a proposition. Together, Savage and Darkseid would conquer the galaxy. Intrigued by this brazen human and the gifted armies he might raise, Darkseid agreed.
You see, these two got together and used the hyperadapter to make their own new universe in an empty area of bleed space. This universe became the entire Metal series, complete with its own dark multiverse, and just outside of it was the rest of the Omniverse and the lost worlds and multiverses of the Crisis on Infinite Earth story. So Perpetua, the original creator in this fake cosmology, was said to be corporeal and never returned to her abstract state during the entire series. This was confirmed in an interview with Scott Snyder. Many fans didn't read the comics to know that her cap was directly cited in this issue, where she's nearly at her full power again and struggling to destroy one universe without heavily exhausting herself. She can't just go delete a universe whenever she wants. But do you know who can? Zeno. While Perpetua needs a nap after universal destruction events, Zeno is left giggling and floating in an empty space between universes. I really think it's clear that anything corporeal is going to have a really tough time against Zeno's destructive capabilities, and it really intrigues me that Goku's potential universal tier destruction capabilities might actually be enough to solidify a win against Perpetua if something like Ultra Instinct punched her in the mouth and shot her with the most intense energy blast that he could muster up.
That's called pain. Get used to it.
I legitimately don't think Perpetua can handle a shot from Ultra Instinct Goku if she's hurling planets around as weapons. And the Forger and Mar Novu essentially said their goodbyes and prayers just before impact. So It's not that I'm glazing DC, I'm just being honest. I pissed off an entire website of Comic Vine just because they didn't read Final Crisis, and I proved that I was the only person on the entire forum who had a physical copy to know that it was printed on the slipcover of the physical issue that the Cosmic Armor Superman is the way the Overvoid sees everything else. This really pissed off Quora too, which attacked me heavily for debunking thousands of people. But did I get any thanks for that? Any praise? Nope. I was attacked instead. So the same thing happened with Perpetua and the Great Darkness event for DC and me. That entire era procured tons of hate against me just for reading out some comic panels that debunked an entire era of readers and biased wiki editors. I'm not a DC glazer. If I were, I'd not be saying Perpetua and the Great Darkness were more fake than the clone entities that Popo made of Goku when Goku went to train on the Lookout. This then repeated in the last year or so of my talking about Goku on the channel, and proving without a shadow of a doubt that Goku glazers never read the manga or watched the series, nor ever even read a single basic science book in their entire lives. There are 3 types of universal structures in science: a spheroid, a negative inversion, and a flat space. DBZ's cosmology is based on the limited size and ratio of a spheroid version of how a universe is formed and created in a fictional space. Marvel, for example, is the negative inverse, which is explained nicely in the Avengers movie by Tony Stark with the Mobius strip, and why it's capped at 16D, and why linear beyonders who are stronger than all the other entities are limited by time. And it's how DC's multiverses and universes are set up on the true infinite flat spectrum variant, with potentially infinite geometry in the single 2D flat membrane cosmology. DBZ, however, being a 3D spheroid, caps at 4D. This is why Zeno is something that can be split with time variants, and each timeline potentially has its own Zeno. This is why Marvel Beyonders at the top of the flowchart are still limited by time and causality, capped at 16D. And this is why DC has no limit to its dimensional structure, because the 2D space group design of their universe structure is inherently a self-repeating von Neumann type of dimensional axis, contained with infinitely more above it, all surrounded by a god sphere that is completely unphysical. But what's the too long didn't read of this? Zeno one-shots Perpetua.